Ladies and gentlemen, this morning from Thursday, May 14th, 2026, voters in Emurua Dikirr Constituency in Narok County woke up and walked into polling stations to choose a new member of parliament. As usual, polling stations open at 6 a.m. and expected to run until 5 p.m. What is happening in that constituency today is not just a by-election. It is a political temperature check with direct implications for the 2027 general election. So let me take you back to how this seat became vacant. On February 28, 2026, the sitting Emurua Dikirr Member of Parliament Johana Ng'eno died in an helicopter crash. Ng'eno was not an ordinary backbencher. The former MP was a loud, combative, and fiery independent political voice, particularly on matters touching the Kipsigis community and the broader Narok political landscape. So his death left a constituency without a representative and, crucially, left a political space that multiple parties immediately moved to fill. Meanwhile, today's exercise is not limited to Emurua Dikirr. Two members of county assembly seats are also being decided. One in Poro Ward, the seat that fell vacant following the death of MCA Patrick Lelten in December 2025 while undergoing treatment at Samburu County Referral Hospital. Another one is in Eldo Ward in Elgeyo Marakwet County. The MCA seat became vacant also after the MCA Jeremiah Biwott in January 2026 died. Biwott had been receiving treatment at Nairobi Hospital. So 3 by-elections, 3 communities, 1 day. In Emurua Dikirr, 5 candidates were cleared by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission to contest the parliamentary seat. Vincent Rotich is flying the Democracy for Citizens Party DCP flag. Alias David Keter, alias Dollarline, is the United Democratic Alliance candidate carrying the president's Ruto's party colors into what is effectively government territory. There is Desma Cherono is on the PNU ticket. Gideon Koech represent NVBK and Kenneth Kiprono is the RLP candidate. That field tells a story of its own. 5 candidates, multiple parties, including DCP, which is the party associated with former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, growing political movement in Rift Valley. The presence of a DCP candidate in Emurua Dikirr is significant. Narok County and the broader Rift Valley belt areas where both the Ruto administration and Gachagua allied opposition are actively competing for a community loyalty ahead of the 2027. Crucially, the UDA candidate David Keter carries the weight of the ruling party's machinery into this race. The UDA wins here could be read and projected as a signal that President Ruto's political base in the Rift Valley remains intact even as administration faces public pressure over taxation, the cost of living, and governance controversies. On the back of that, a DCB victory for Vincent Rotich would be an early and a concrete sign that Rigathi's Gachagua post-impeachment political organization is translating into actual electoral results on the ground. That is what makes this by-election a proven 2027 preview, not just a constituency replacement exercise. Beyond the ballot, there was already tension on the ground before voting even began. On Wednesday night, the eve of the election, brief but noticeable tension was reported at Emurua Dikirr shopping center, where a young man was seen moving in groups carrying batons. The IEBC and the security agencies were present and voting process this morning commenced successfully. But that incident is not something to bypass over lightly. Pre-election tensions of that nature, organized group, nighttime movement, visible weapons reflect the degree to which this seat is genuinely contested. Emurua Dikirr is not a constituency where one party dominates so completely that the outcomes feel certain. The tension on the ground confirms that multiple political camps consider this seat winnable and worth fighting for. Following that, the IEBC made a specific public commitment this morning that any time lost at the opening of the polling stations will be recovered at the closing time, and that every voter in the queue by 5 p.m. will be allowed to cast their ballot. That statement, made proactively, suggests that the Commission is managing expectation in a constituency where logistical and security disruptions were considered a real possibility. At that point, the questions become: what does a clean, credible results today means for IEBC standing going into 2027? Kenya's Electoral Commission has faced sustained criticism over its management of past elections. A well-run by-election, particularly one in a contested, high-profile constituency, gives the Commission an opportunity to demonstrate operational competence ahead of the general election in 2027. Meanwhile, in Poro Ward and Eldo Ward, the MCA by-election carries their own local weight. Ward-level seats determine who sits in the county assemblies, who approve the county budget, and who hold governors accountable at the most local level of government. The death of Patrick Lermet and Jeremiah Biwott created governance gap in their respective wards that community have been navigating for months. Today closes those gaps, but the political parties contesting those seats are also using them to test their grassroots organization. What today ultimately represents is the first electoral test of 2026, a year that sits directly between the 2024 political disruptions and the 2027 general elections. Every party contesting today is watching not just whether they win, but by how much and what the voter turnout says about community engagement. A low turnout in Emurua Dikirr would significantly or signal political fatigue or disillusionment. High turnout would signal that the constituency is energized, and that energy, in whichever direction it flows, will be studied very carefully by campaign strategists across all the major 2027 presidential camps.